The biggest thing about the relationship with myself is just trusting in myself. Not thinking that I'm going to screw it all up. Not thinking that I'm going to ruin everything. I used to be so goddamn socially anxious and insecure that I could look somebody in the eyes and within 3 seconds say they don't like me for no reason. And that doesn't happen anymore because I love myself and I get my internal needs met internally. I'm not looking for external validation. I don't need it. My relationship with myself is very dynamic and fluid, but there's a foundation there that I'm glad to say I built, and I'll always be there for myself. I think that's very important to say and understand and believe.
People ask you who you are,
Mhm.
um, not what you do, but who you are. What's the first thing that comes to mind for you?
I haven't answered that question ever, honestly. Nobody's ever asked me that properly. Um, I would want to say that I'm a very passionate person, but then obviously you have to follow up with passionate about what. Um, I would say that I'm a person that's very focused on thinking about the nitty-gritty problems of the world and then trying to figure out solutions for them, or at least figure out pathways to solutions for them. Um, that to me is my being and my soul. I spend my day doing that basically. It's the bedrock of everything that I do for work. But again, it's interesting because I'm still straying away from the answer that you probably want. So how's this? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't have an answer that I want. I just want to know what comes to mind, and I think that says a lot. If that's the first thing that comes to mind for you, is you really like to get into the nitty gritty and problems of the world and find solutions for them. Did I get that right?
It's one of the things about growing up as a Gen Z. I don't mean to start off with a complaint, but I was on another podcast and the guest was talking about his son who's a Gen Z, and the guest was a Gen Xer, and
Mhm.
he was saying that raising his son was so difficult because his son had grown up during COVID, during because he was in India at the time, or he is in India, so growing up during the war, the brief, hopefully brief war between India and Pakistan,
Mhm.
or brief skirmish, I shouldn't call it a war yet. He grew up during the information crisis, grew up during political polarization, geopolitically and nationally.
Mhm.
He grew up during the romantic crisis that Gen Z are going through, grew up during the social crisis that they're going through, grew up during the technological crisis that they're going through. And so, uh, for somebody like myself who sees all of these things, I find it difficult to just sit back. And I wish I could. Like, there are many days where, like, again, I'm not to brag, but like I'm working on 4 books. I do the podcast. I have my other work as well, and so
Mhm.
there's so much to do, and there's so many things I want to do. But I 100% wish I could have just sat back and not done it, if that makes sense. It feels even icky to admit that, but there's so much going on, and my heart hurts that not more people are trying to fix it in that way, or at
Mhm.
least trying to advertise that they're fixing it. I think that there's a lot of responsibility to be placed on society capital S, where we complain about the problems like homelessness, like well, climate change is a broad category, but
Mhm.
let's be more specific. Uh, uh, the insect apocalypse, like ocean acidification, ocean dead zones. We complain about litter and everything, but we don't necessarily do anything substantial or significant to change that.
Mhm.
And so for my entire life, I've seen people be caught in this strange valley between wanting things to change, but not actually wanting to do anything to change it. Like they'll sign a petition, or they'll go out in the street, but they don't want to start a business, or they don't want to run for office for that reason. It's very few people. So I don't know necessarily what to do with that. Like, especially with
Mhm.
my generation, we have access to so much tech, and yet we just don't do anything with it. And so that kind of propels me every morning to get up and
Mhm.
write the books and you connect with the people and talk with people like yourself, like we're in different generations, but we have such similar mindsets. And that means so much because at least even if we're not recording these things, we can have a conversation that will get us in the right direction of solving a problem. It doesn't have to be the meta crisis, but it can be some problem that we solve. And that to me again is the whole point.
Yeah, it sounds like you're somebody that cares deeply and wants to go beyond just caring, but also finding solutions and taking action towards those solutions.
Absolutely. It's silly of me to say, I find it difficult. I find it hypocritical when people, just complain but don't do anything. And then I'm sitting here writing books and expecting everything to change overnight. Like I get that. That is pure hypocrisy. But the books for me, like the work I'm doing right now is just phase one, and I have phases of plans for what I want to do afterwards. Like when I have way more money in the bank, I'll be able to connect with more people and be able to hopefully create, let's say, nonprofits or organizations that are focused on certain things. But I don't know, it just seems like, and this is why I focus on social media so much and internet technology in general, because it seems like a lot of the things that we're suffering from stems from the internet and the way that we use it and the way that we don't use it. And I think communicating about that is so important because it's funny because when you become slightly more emotionally mature, you are told or you come to realize that solving problems for other people never helps, and you have to wait for them to solve the problem themselves. Like the
Mm.
old adage is you can't bring a horse to water and force it to drink. And then Alois Samazi might say, yeah, but you can shove salt in its mouth type of thing. And I don't know what the shoving salt in its mouth, I don't know what that is when it comes to getting society to a point where they understand all the problems that we face and how to solve them, or at least how to get on the right track in order for us all to solve them in a way that helps everybody and benefits everybody. There's no point in solving a problem if 50% or 30% or 70% of society is left out, right? That's not solving the problem, that's just pushing the problem onto other people. So writing the books and doing these podcasts and talking to folks like yourself and going to these networking events to me is all on the track of getting towards some type of place where we can say, hey, the 21st century was pretty terrible at the start, but we and here's the most important thing, which is I'll wrap this whole point up with. The 21st century was a period of, let's say, accelerated technology, and for the first time, we also had proportional accelerated wisdom. Because right now we just
Mhm.
have
Yeah.
stagnated wisdom, but accelerating technology. I want to see
Mhm.
if there's a way for us to make that proportional and have our wisdom also accelerate with the technology as well. Because I don't want to be left behind. E.O. Wilson already said we have Paleolithic emotions, medieval institutions, and godlike technology. But why are we
Mhm.
okay with that? You know, we should
Mhm.
have, if we have godlike something, we should have godlike everything.
Yeah, I think that's one place you and I are aligned is around the idea that we have this accelerating wisdom that we can take advantage of. I want to go back to uh, everything that you were saying. The thing that stood out to me because this is along the original question, which is who is Ayush, independent of what he does, but like who he is at the core. And I see there not just somebody that is you're seeing problems at a not just a global scale, but you're also seeing the trajectory of the problems over time and where they might go. And then you're also seeing how uh, society is intertwined into all of that and how they're a part of that and how they also can solve that problem together collectively. And that you are somebody that wants to do it collectively, but you also don't want to. I could be wrong. Maybe the salt in the mouth might be a form of force, but I don't think that's really what you mean. Like you don't want to force people either. You want to bring them along, right? So you're somebody that wants to not go and solve these problems yourself, but you want to bring others along as well because you care deeply about these things and you know you can't do it alone. So there's some humility there too, which is also part of who you are. Um, and we could spend the whole probably hour going into all of these aspects of who Ayush is, but I'm curious, like, where do you think this um, comes from? This all these parts of who you are that we've discussed.
From my mom and my dad, mainly my mom. My mom was the woman of the house since she was 13, when my biological grandmother died, and um, she just always put her family first, and always was there, and we all remember when we were 13, slightly, and we all hopefully can remember freedom and rebellion and having a normal childhood and having fun. And she didn't really get that, because she was taking care of her family until my deaf grandmother came along, and took over those responsibilities. But like she taught me, and she always installed in me, um, like, you can do anything in life, but it's gonna be a lot of work. And so, to me, and I apologize for bringing politics into this at the jump, but the one thing that I like about Trump, and the one thing that I like, is what he said, and I quote, "If you're gonna do something, do it big, do it the biggest that you can."
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, you know, however people feel about him, you can clearly see how I feel about him in my tone. But I heard that, and I was like, okay, well, I take something from my mom, and I'll take something from this random guy. Um, you know, um, but to me, if I'm gonna try to contribute something, and people always tell me, people have told me since I was young, that the thing that you always tell young people is you can do anything in life, right? Um, and she just added the notion of, but you're going to have to work really, really hard at it.
Mm-hmm.
And if I think that, and one thing that Naval Ravikant said is that if you're so smart, why can't you figure something out, right? He was talking about happiness because a lot of very smart people are mentally unsatisfied or mentally afflicted by certain things. But I just apply that to anything now, which is, if I have any conviction of my intellect, which I do, why am I not able to solve certain things? Like, why am I not able to make progress on certain things? And so it's not necessarily arrogance, but just conviction of, if
Mm-hmm.
I have if I need to work hard at something, why not make it the biggest possible thing that will help my entire civilization?
Mm-hmm.
And every single day, if I can just make a little bit of progress over time, that will amount to so much more progress than can be realized. One thing I love about Kobe Bryant, rest in peace, is that he would say, if I just spend an hour or two extra in the gym training, then eventually you have so many your cumulative results compound so much more that it's impossible for other people to catch up. Now, I don't find that I'm in competition with anybody, because I would rather collaboration than competition, especially for global problems. But it's just that thing is, if I can continue working on this path
Mm-hmm.
and talk to incredible people and put these things out for other people to see and say, hey, maybe I don't want to work with you, but I can still take these concepts and do something else with other people, then that's a net positive for my entire civilization. That's just what it is. So, long story
Yeah.
short, my mom.
Yeah. It sounds like she instilled in you a couple of things, which is to to care first off, and the second one is this notion of thinking big. Um, to take another controversial figure, Jeff Bezos said, thinking small is a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? And so if you're going to put effort towards something, why not aim for the maximum you can possibly aim? Um, you you also were talking about like the cumulative gains. What I love about what you learned as well is that, like, thinking big doesn't mean that you start big or you do everything big, right? That it's a lot of small, consistent effort over time,
Yeah.
right? And it sounds like that's something else that you learned from your mom, or was that from somewhere else?
Well, my mom taught me like the side of, hey, you can do anything and it's going to be a lot of work and you have a chance of failing, but
Hmm.
you know, uh, I believe in you.
Mm.
And to me, like my mom was my rock. I love that woman to death and beyond. Um, the reason why I started with a book is because of my father and my brother. So they're both authors, and they not taught me how to write because I think I had a natural talent for that early on, and it showed. But they taught me that it was possible without going in the traditional way.
Hmm.
And whenever I had a crazy idea of writing a book about artificial intelligence at 19 or 20 before I had even graduated with my degree, they were just like, yeah, just try, right?
Hmm.
I didn't have a friend group that was going to tell me no. I didn't have parents who looked at me like I was crazy or something like that. Whenever I encountered a problem, they weren't going to solve it for me, but
Hmm.
they also weren't going to just hang me out to dry and just tell me to figure it out. Obviously, it's not as simple as that, but in retrospect, things seem simpler, of course. Um, but that to me was the most powerful thing is I was able to just start from nothing. Like I had just read, like I remember the day very, very vividly. I mean, I had just taken delivery of Human Compatible by Stuart Russell, Life 2.0 by Max Tegmark, Super Intelligence by Nick Bostrom, and what's the other one? Our Final Invention by James something. Love something. And I was taking it out of the box, and I was just reading it so quickly. Like I was spending hours just, you know, absorbing all the material. And that's when I came to just realize after spending so much time around the concept of AI or what AI was at the time in 2019, that nobody was talking about it in relation to my generation. Like that's when it
Mm.
all
Hmm.
clicked. Like
Yeah.
I still remember the box was like the Amazon box was right there and the
Hmm.
books were in front of me. And I was like, holy moly, it was kind of just taking the red pill and seeing that and having a thought downloaded and
Hmm.
realizing, hey, this is closer to the prophecy rather than not. This is not noise. This is actually something that you're supposed to do with your life. And I don't know what that is, by the way. And I just continued following that thread, that path. I continued to write the book, refine the book, talk to people. I was literally crazy, like whether I was flirting with a girl or, I used to work at Starbucks or talking with a customer, you know, talking to my manager, I was writing things on napkins, right? I was just completely and utterly obsessed because I just felt like this is the thing I needed to do. And that is the thing that started everything. And I just felt it in my bones and I threw myself off of the cliff and I burned all the boats and not burned the bridges, but I just didn't allow myself to let that thread die or not see the end of that thread. And to be honest, I still don't know where that thread leads, still following
Hmm.
it. And the things that I've encountered along the way have just been life changing. I'm a completely different person now. I have so much more respect for the world, respect for myself. And that's kind of the biggest thing that I would tell people. And that's exactly what I tell young people, regardless, again, whether I'm in a club flirting with a girl or like just on the street, talking with my friends who are obviously young and lost, as all 20-year-olds are,
Yeah.
as all people in their 20s are. Um, I just tell them if you find the thing that you really want to do, like what is the one thing that you really want to do, right? And lots of people already have that in their mind. They just don't believe that they can do something with it. And some people haven't come across that yet, and that's totally okay. It doesn't take, or it's not like an instant thing, and it takes a lot of trial and error to find what you want to do.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
if you're in the latter camp, continue searching. And if
Yeah.
you're in the former camp, then just figure out a way to continue. That doesn't mean monetize it, by the way. I never want to always tell people to monetize your art form because then it becomes less of an art form and more of something else, which we can get into. But I always tell young people, you know what you want to do and you know what your passion is, just chase it. Just follow it as much as you can. It doesn't matter whether you're dedicating an hour to it a day or 8 hours or 3 hours. Just follow it because you just don't know what is going to come out of it. I I think I like I hope no arrogance is bestowed in this comment, but I think I am a living example of that because I have continued to follow my passion, continued to follow my first love, which is writing that damn book AI for Gen Z. And I have, yeah, my life has changed because of it.
That's awesome. I think my reaction when you were talking about that, I agreed with everything you said. My reaction was, um, well, first off, like we always get told that, right? Follow your passion. Um, and but what, and I'm gonna get back to that. But what I did love that you added to that is that there's this trial and error. Like there's this societal expectation that you should know what you want to do and you go do it and you become successful by society's measure of success and then you know so it leads me to two questions, which is like when do you know to pivot, because it's trial and error, right? So there's got to be a pivot point. And the second one is like, what does success look like for Ayush?
It, uh, I'm still trying to figure out the last one, so I'll spend more time on that one.
Good,
To
me
answer the
too. Well,
first
I
one,
guess that's a bummer because I was hoping you could tell me.
yeah, you know, yeah, I'll say that because it'll be an interesting one. But um, how to know when to pivot. So it kind of, for me, whenever I encounter friction with anything, that's when I see myself, um, not adversity, friction.
Mm,
That there's a difference.
interesting. Could
Um,
you stop and actually talk? I think that just the difference is
yeah.
super important.
So friction is if I am trying to work on a project, like I've been working on a crypto book since 2022.
Mm,
And usually I'm incredibly obsessed with what I'm writing, right? Like I have right beside me an entire shelf of cryptocurrency books that I know, like Infinite Machine by Camilla Russo, Bitcoin Standard by Safety and Amos, like Fiat Standard by Safety and Amos, like all the prime crypto books, right? And I've had those books since again 2022, and I've been collecting them. But for some reason, for the past 3 years, I've been trying to write that damn book, and it just hasn't come out of me. There's been no passion. There's been no like, I can't sit down for 3 hours and be obsessed with it. So that
mm,
to me is friction. Um, it's when I'm trying to do something and I know I'm doing it for a purpose, and like the passion, the goal, the next step, they're already worked out, and there's a reason why I'm doing it. And yet there's still that thing in the back of my mind where it's like, this is not the right time, or this is not, it is just not the right time to do this. I apologize if that's a little too spiritual for people, but there's the friction of maybe in a different way. If you're trying to create a song and you're trying to create a song about something, and just you're in the mood and you have everything and you want to finish this album, and for some reason this song that you want to write is just not coming out. For some reason it's just
mm.
not generating within your mind. And you're trying everything. That to me is friction. The difference with friction and adversity is it's very nuanced and subtle. I apologize. To me, I was in December of last year. I was struggling with the purpose of a current book, the crypto book. It's called The
Mm.
Transcendence of Money. I'm absolutely obsessed with it now, but I was really struggling with what the purpose was, and I had felt that I was right there, and I just wasn't cracking it for some reason. Like it was forcing me to, instead of, the old Abraham Lincoln quote, if I think it was Lincoln, it's like, if I need to chop down a tree and I have 6 hours, I'm going to spend the first 4 hours sharpening the axe.
There's lots of
So
variations
if,
of that. Yeah. Hmm.
right, like it felt like I was spending the first hour just striking at the tree with a really dull axe. I need
Hmm.
to just take a step back and start sharpening it. And as I started doing that, I started realizing that my goal was actually incorrect. I wasn't trying to figure out the purpose of the crypto book. I was trying to figure out a way to get it done faster so I could work on other things. And that realization of trying to say, hey, what the hell is going on here? Like, I'm sitting down, and this entire thing that I had thought I'd already worked out is just not there anymore. Like the entire framework just doesn't exist because of these new thoughts. So that adversity to me what it is monumental because it allowed me to look at the crypto book and say, well, what am I really writing about? Like, what is the thing I want to communicate with? AI for Gen Z is very simple. Artificial intelligence for Gen Z, right? It's in the title. But transcendence of money, what is somebody supposed to understand about this? What do you want to understand about this? What do you want to bring to the table? If AI for Gen Z is a Gen Z writing about artificial intelligence, what is the same theme or perspective for this book? And that amount of adversity, because I suffered from this for 2 weeks and I was talking to everybody about this, that amount of adversity was very healthy for me because I was obsessed with it. I was obsessed with it and I was constantly trying and failing. And again, you're gonna ask like, this sounds like fiction. Are you gonna say this sounds like fiction? Um, to me, again, I hate saying this. It's just about the feeling that you get when you're in the work. I encourage people to read The Creative Act by Rick Rubin. Um, he talks about, in one of the chapters, he talks about ideas. And sometimes ideas come to you and they stay with you for a little bit, but if you don't act on them, then they'll go to someone else. Another, I don't think this was Rick Rubin, but another person I've heard said that sometimes an idea's time comes in culture.
Yep.
And I think actually you said that.
Yeah.
You said that in the
Yeah.
line.
I don't
Yeah.
know where I got
Thank
it
you.
from, but yeah.
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 But thank you for saying that. So Alex said, or Alex quoted at least, sometimes an idea's time comes and it will manifest itself in culture in certain ways. So it felt like that idea was just trying to push through and the adversity was within me to
Mhm.
figure out. Does that
Yeah. I think
distinction?
my version of it is um, that friction is the opposite of a flow state.
Yeah.
And adversity is as external challenges that you face that can help you refine your idea and help you grow it and evolve it so that it can manifest itself the way it needs to manifest in the world and the state that it's in. Whether it's like product market fit, you run into a challenge, you have this idea for this great product and you put it out there and your customers don't like it. And you're like, oh, well, why not? You tweak it. And that's your challenge, whatever it is. What, what I, uh, what I like about this is it kind of goes back a little bit. There's a parallel to AI here, which is that, um, and authenticity, um, which is I have this hypothesis that we enter into a flow state when we're in full alignment within ourselves, or mostly full. We're never completely in full alignment, but enough alignment happens, and then we enter into a flow state. And that's why you and I can have these amazing conversations because we're like well aligned, and we're not perfectly aligned, just enough.
Mhm.
And because if we were perfectly aligned, the conversation would be boring. It would just be like, yep, 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 yep.
Yeah.
And even within ourselves, right? There's going to be some amount of that friction within ourselves, and it's just that right balance of it. And and it's funny because this, my work with AI has made me start to see like everything is an alignment problem. Even
Mhm.
your conversation earlier about trying to align your generation towards solving the same problems and seeing it, getting the horse to want to go to the water, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So, anyways, I think what you're trying to say is that like you pivot when what you're doing might be out of alignment with yourself
yeah.
in some way. It's not
That's
authentic to you,
brilliant.
right? Is
That's
that
brilliant.
what you're saying?
Absolutely. You said it in such a better way, and I'm very upset about that because now it seems like I just enjoy hearing myself talk, and you said it in such a succinct way. So
I just summarized what you said. I couldn't have if you hadn't
you
said
said
it.
it
So
better.
go team, man, go team.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm very upset. We're in alignment with
yeah. um, so we didn't get to talk about the success piece.
that. Fast. So
I would love to talk about that.
to me, success is a very dynamic and fluid thing. I was talking with one of my best friends. Her name is Jenny Meyer, who you would love. I'll connect you guys after. But she was calling me out really hard more than one day, which she always does on every call. Um, but I was saying that I was talking about how people think I'm successful at 24, just based off of everything that I've done.
Mhm.
And I was telling her, I was like, I'm completely uncomfortable with this because I'm 24. It
Mhm.
doesn't feel like I'm successful at all. And I haven't done anything with my life. It doesn't feel like I've done anything with my life. And for me to even talk about being successful is there's so much ego and hubris and arrogance and narcissism with that that I completely dismiss it. And
Mhm.
she was basically saying, well, your definition of success is so high and so unrealistic for yourself that you just can't see anything that you've done. Because, she's like, oh, you have X money in the bank, but you want XXXXX money in the bank. You want your name to be a household name. You want, the social proof and everything. I was like, yeah, that's exactly it. And that's when I realized that what I'm striving for was completely misaligned to what I'm actually doing. Because at the start of the call, it was a very noble, very like civilizational thing. And yet
Mhm.
I'm, I'm doing that for all the external, um, how would you say,
External
doing it
validation.
for all the external validation,
Mhm.
um, which I had to be told that I don't know if I can swear, but like that's pretty
Yeah, go
crazy.
for it. Yeah. Mhm.
That's fucking insane. And
Mhm.
so now to me, success would just be, can I figure out a way to move the needle in history without my name being attached? Because I think the best leaders are the ones that can lead within the shadows. And I think the best leaders are people that don't need to be the sticker, or the like, they don't need to be the person right at the front. Like the captain doesn't always need to be at the front of the ship. And that to me would be success. And at the same time, in the same breath, it has nothing to do with me. Like one of my plans for the podcast when it does grow as big as I want it to be is to just take my name out of it and go let other people, like, let it be a community thing, right?
Mhm.
And that's why I call it Gen Z Diplomat, because number one, I don't understand it when people name the podcast after them, because then it's just your lifespan and then it dies with you.
Mhm.
Um, to me, that seems kind of narrow. But number two, I am really not interested anymore in thinking about the world within quarters, like this month's quarter versus next month's quarter. I don't want to think in years. I don't even want to think in decades. I want to think in centuries. Like we don't have a civilization capable of building the pyramids anymore. And what I mean by that is the way that we built the pyramids was anti-lifespan. Like the people that started the pyramids were not the people that finished the pyramids. It was almost like a generation ship. Are you familiar with that? Like just for the people that
Yeah.
aren't, generation ship is, we're trying to go from planet X to planet Y, and it's like 1,000 years. And so you send people in a ship where the people in the ship continue to reproduce and continue to fund the colony with life, essentially, until their offspring, or their grand um, children eventually reach, right? And so you're embarking on a quest that is outside of yourself. You're a small part of it, but you're still
Mhm.
contributing to it. And that to me is success. That to me would be, if I can do something where it is like Bitcoin, if I can do something like that, where I can just build it up and get it to a point where other people can take care of it, and it becomes this massive thing that has nothing to do with me. Like, if something happens to me, like some scandal or something happens to me, it doesn't affect it, like it becomes anti-fragile. That to me is absolute success, because we get all the positives of a project that moves civilization in the right direction,
Yeah.
and you get none of the downsides of it being led by a human that's obviously flawed and complex and suffers from whatever we suffer from.
Yeah. Um, there's a lot there. I think like the common thread through it is that to you, success is being able to impact something that is greater than yourself and that doesn't
Yeah.
have your name tied to it.
Yeah.
So by that definition, would you say that you are successful right now?
Yep.
Why is that? So would you say that you're a failure?
Yep. Because I would only be a failure when I quit.
Mm,
So when that's what I also tell people is that when you never fail, you either win. So you either you either win or you learn, right? So when people get fired or their startup collapses or something like that, they're
mhm.
very quick to think of themselves as a failure.
Yeah.
But the truth is that you come into this new era with all the learnings that you got from the previous. And so there's really no failure in that. Like, doesn't make any sense. The only time it
Mm,
would be a failure is if you stop applying those learnings. And the only way you would stop is if you quit your path, the path that you're on. Like, you just turn back,
yeah.
right? And so to me, I would never be a failure no matter what happens unless I stop on this path, unless I change the person that I am, unless I become incredibly narcissistic and arrogant and just think it's all about me. Um, Unless I stray away from my fundamental values. Like, one of the things that I'm very passionate about is like not charging people money for everything. Like, I tell everybody, like I do these um job search classes. Like, I have a friend, Christine Blanchette, who's an incredible lady, and she does a job search class in Vancouver. And some of the people are asking for the book, and I say, I don't want you to buy the book. I don't want your money. Like, I literally don't want your money. I just want you to have the information. I will send it to you. Like, I upload my book on Reddit and torrents it for people for free. Like, I'm the one that does that because I don't see a reason for me to say that the world is fucked and say that people are suffering from so many things and then also ask you for money. That doesn't make any sense. I want you to have the information and I want you to do something with the information. That is how you're going to repay me. And I'm incredibly passionate about that. So I don't think, unless I fail at what I do, I don't think I would ever start doing like 17 sponsors of podcasts or asking people to buy the book and charging them crazy profits for that. So to me, success can change. Success can be fluid. It can be dynamic. I'm only 24. I don't know anything about the world, but failure is very rigid. It's like
Yeah.
very black and white to me. It's either I continue on the path that I'm on and that I want to be on, and that is that is success in that way. So maybe I already am successful because I get to continue on that path. But if I stop and if I ever stray away from the path for no good reason other than, not believing in it, then I think that's failure.
Yeah. I love that perspective. Your entire perspective on this is refreshing. Um, in terms of, I think especially not tying your success to like what you have. And there's
Mhm.
elements of that in like saying you don't want to charge people. You know, money is not your measure of success. Um, and but to some extent, you know, what you do is a measure of it. But I think like my personal view on it is that success is success and failure, and I agree that like there's learning, and it's only a failure if you don't try to learn something from it. And sometimes you don't learn anything. Sometimes you can do everything right. This is Jean-Luc Picard from Star Trek, but you can do everything right and completely perfectly right and still fail. That's life, you know. There's no learning other than sometimes things just don't go the way that you want them to. But like success and failure are independent of who we are, that we just are, and then we do things, and then those things that we do allow us to have things. They either succeed or they fail. And I think a lot of young people, actually just most people in general, are focused on the doing and the having,
Yeah.
and whether it's successful or not. And there's always this saying of like, I want to be successful, or your friends like, you know, you're successful. I see you as successful. And this is this obsession in society with being successful, being a success, right?
Yeah.
And not being a failure. Do you think that Gen Z, where does Gen Z stand in that spectrum of like honoring? and like I am enough and you are enough as you are, versus the other side of the spectrum, which is like you are only enough if you are successful by some arbitrary measure of success.
Well, one of the things about being in alignment is that whenever I'm very aligned with somebody, usually the conversation, it's not that it's going in circles, but the themes continue to pop back up, and that's when I really enjoy talking to people. So you're one of those people. Um, so they're completely on the latter end of that spectrum, which is so perfect. Rene Girard, he wrote Things Hidden Since the Foundation of the World. And he was talking about mm, uh, mimetic desires. So,
I just heard this from a TV show.
no way.
Yeah, called White Lotus. I don't know if you've heard of it, but
Oh, yeah,
they,
I've heard
they
of this. Okay, it's very
yeah, yeah.
popular right now.
Yeah, it's super popular, and I got sucked into it. It's actually really good because it's about this topic. It's
Mm.
about the main characters, you know, are so obsessed with this idea of success, and they'll have different versions of it, that they forget what it means to live, you know. But I went when I heard that term, I went straight and looked it up because it sounds like it's a very um, useful term. So go ahead. But I just want to
Yes.
call that out because I think it's a really important concept.
Uh, I'm glad to see that it's being aligned. No, it's
Yeah.
a fascinating concept because it showcases how like you have a shiny CD and you're very happy with it, and now
Mhm.
I want that shiny CD because I want it. So I mimic your desire. And Gen Z are kind of the perfect encapsulation of that because they're spending all their time on social media and they're seeing other people. And this is what I mean. Social media is such a facade. Like this entire podcast is about facades. Social media is like the devil of facade, right? You go online and people don't look normal. They don't engage in normal lifestyle activities. They don't talk normally. They don't even like you see them talking to girls or guys or whatever you're into, and they're not even talking to them normally. So they're not even talking to um the they're not even talking in a romantic sense in a normal way. But what you're downloading as a person is I don't look like that. I don't sound like that. I don't talk like that. I don't have that. I don't do those things. I don't have that many friends. I'm not that good looking or whatever. I need to buy the course. I need to do this. I need to do that. And so you're downloading all of these things. What are you downloading? Desires. But you came in there full, and so you're literally generating insecurity. And so to me, I'm telling young people, I'm like, okay, well, you want to get in shape or whatever, but like, do you have an internal need to get in shape, or is it something external? Like, are you the type of person that is going to document your time at the gym every single day? And seek attention in that way. Not that documenting it is bad, but I think that there are perverse incentives of documenting your time at the gym every single day on social media, for likes and clicks. That is like whatever people say, it's all BS. So I don't want to I, I don't want to be abrasive, but let's be honest. Um, and so to me, when I'm talking to young people or even just people in general about social media, I'm telling them you need to watch what you like, what you share, what you view, what you comment on, because all of those things are going to reinforce your your um your insecurities, and they're going to download more insecurities. Like for example, I'll give you a very good example. This happened to me a couple of days ago, so it's fresh and it's not like I was a different person. This a couple of days ago. I was on Instagram and I saw this post of like it's gonna be incredibly crass, but whatever, I'm being authentic. Um,
Exactly.
you know, I because I'm dating a girl right now, and
Mhm.
the post was like, "Hey, you can spend all the money that you want on her, but she's just letting somebody else, snatch for free,
Mhm.
right?"
Yeah.
And I'm an incredibly secure person. I get my internal needs met internally. I go to therapy and I work all of that out, in the proper way. And me, I was completely thrown off, and my equilibrium was completely offset. And I was like, "Why the fuck
Mhm.
is this
Yeah.
affecting me so much? It doesn't make any sense." When I'm enjoying my time with this girl, she's like an incredible person. Like she's everything I want, you
Mhm.
know, and we have incredible conversations. Like there's nothing wrong with it. And yet
Yeah.
to me, there was this insecurity like in my core, and that post, that piece of information, that ephemeral digital artifact that doesn't matter and will never be remembered throughout history fucked me over and still fucked me over today. Like
Mhm.
it's in my mind right now.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I was so secure, and now I'm
Mm.
incredibly insecure in this way, and I have
Mhm.
to work
Yeah.
through that. And I don't know what to do with that. And so I'm telling people, and this is me after writing a damn book on this and talking on endless podcasts and to endless people about it. Right.
Yeah.
So imagine people who have no clue that this is going on and are consuming, again, gym TikToks and romance TikToks and, eating TikToks and
Mhm.
all of these things. Andrew Tate, you're
Mhm.
not that good of a man because you don't have 50 million in the bank at 16 years old, right? Um, your measure of wealth is women and jets and cigars, right? Like,
Mhm.
says who? Says who? Like, the thing to me is, am I being the most authentic version of myself for myself? If I, and this is my measure, and this is very practical advice, if I see that I'm changing who I am when I'm around somebody, I stop being with that person until I figure out what the hell is going on.
Mhm.
If I see that I'm changing myself when I'm in a certain environment, I will stop going to that environment until I figure
Mhm.
out what the hell is going on. And the
Mhm.
way I realize that I'm not being myself is because I start using language differently. I start
Mhm.
having different posture, different body language. I start um, not even using language differently, but start not even communicating. I start, like, let's be honest, lying. And I'm not
Mhm.
a liar.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the hell is going on? Like, why would I ever do this? Like, why would I act more sleazy or act way smoother than I am? Like, why am I not authentic? Why am I not good enough for this moment right now? That's the main question that I'm asking myself.
Mhm.
And that is important in the world of atoms. But in the world of bits, you have to continuously update your facade by the posts and the likes and everything. And there's no way around that. And so, yeah, for young people, but especially just people on social media, I always just tell them, you have to always watch who you are, and what type of person you want to portray, and the likes and everything come in, which we can talk about. But that to me is the most important thing.
Um, that like everything you said there, man, there's so much to dig into. And it makes me very hopeful, by the way. I mean, one of the things I really value about our connection is that the intergenerational thing, right? Because one day I'm going to be counting on your generation to keep things running as
Yeah,
I'm sunsetting,
yeah,
right? And then I'm going to be turning the lights off, and it's up to you to keep it going. But and it gives me hope talking to you. I there's a few things I want to say. Like one thing I want to say is that like this is not a Gen Z problem, but I think like
yes,
it's magnified, right? To your point, social media like magnifies the problem. When I was a kid, it was TV and magazines and newspapers, you know. But I will say that like the difference, and this goes back to earlier we were talking about the acceleration of wisdom, is that when I was a kid, I didn't have access to the antibodies, the antidote to all of this, but I do now, right?
yeah,
Um, and so there's a few things I want to talk about there. One was my reaction when you were talking about the. Can we talk more about the post that triggered your
yeah,
insecurity with your
yes,
girlfriend? Um, my reaction to that was first like so self aware, right? That like you're having some people would see that. Most people probably will see that, and then they'd start texting their girlfriend and being like, "What is going on? Are you not telling me something?" And they'd spiral, and that's why that video is doing so great.
yeah,
That's why it's spreading,
yeah,
you know. But the route you took was you said, "I know what's going on." And like I'm gonna like not like this. I'm not gonna follow it. I'm not gonna let it keep appearing in my feed.
yeah,
Um, I noticed there's this thing with maybe it's not just your gender. I think it's a whole society right now where we are so worried about getting triggered. Like we don't want to get triggered. And so we're like, I don't want to be triggered anymore. I want trigger alerts. If this thing's triggering me, I'm not going to follow it anymore. I need to spend all my time in a safe space in an echo chamber, you know? And I think there is some value. Like this is a safe space. It's somewhat of an echo chamber. You need to have places where you can recharge, where you can, do that. But if we never get triggered, we leave things unresolved. And so I'm wondering if there's a reason that video triggered you. That is something, it's not that the video triggered you, that there's something else inside of you that still needs to be resolved. It's the video is
Absolutely.
not the problem. It actually might be, the video actually might be a positive thing because it shined light on something for you.
Yeah. No, I mean, the only amount of pushback that I would give is that I would say that this isn't an echo chamber because it's a good conversation. And to me, good conversation is when somebody can say, hey, you're completely wrong, or hey, you clearly haven't factored in this result, or hey, you shouldn't talk about this in this way because of XYZ. Like, I think
Yeah.
that when you have a good conversation with somebody, you can be honest and you know that the other person is not going to um consider your language or try to manipulate your language as an attack, but
Mhm.
use your words as like words of love or encouragement or communication and connection. That to
Mhm.
me, there's nothing like an echo chamber. And that's why I love
Yep.
podcasting, is because
Hmm.
you can only have that through conversation.
Yep.
And you used to only be able to have that through physical conversation.
Yep.
But to answer your question, um, well, to me, number one, she's not my girlfriend yet. We haven't had the exclusive talk, and so there's always that whenever you're
Hmm.
in that um relationship setting, romantic setting, where
Hmm.
you guys are you guys might be seeing other people, but you haven't really decided. And if you ask them, then you also have to ask, okay, what are we? And so nobody else wants to bring that up, and so you have to
Yeah.
figure out how to navigate that, which
Yeah.
is always is so dumb.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whatever, we're human. I don't care.
Yeah.
Um, but but to me, that was already going through my mind because and again, this is the shittiest thing about Instagram, because I click on her profile and I'm just, I hadn't seen her in a while, and so I was just going through her photos, and um like I see this guy like the photo. I was like, okay, like I remember the name from a conversation, and so I clicked her, right. I was like, oh, who else does she follow? And then
Yeah.
I saw that she follows a lot of other guys, and so I'm like, okay, well, again, being honest, like it's kind of a red flag, or I shouldn't say red flag. It's a subjective preference of mine if the
Mm.
girl doesn't have a lot of guy friends, because
Mm.
having a lot of guy friends, again, subjectively to me, signals that maybe she's not as serious in terms of the relationship style that I want to maintain and put forth. I think that is a respectful and decent way to put it,
Well, it's a
and
yellow
honest.
flag versus a red. Like to me, a yellow flag is like, okay, I'm going to pay attention, but it's not like, it's just like, okay, I'm going to pay attention. A red flag is like, no, this is bad, right? And so you're
Right.
saying when you see that she has all of these male friends, it's like, okay, I just need to make sure that she really is in alignment with my values, but it doesn't mean that she's not.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. And it's perfect. I love you, Alex. So it's the alignment thing of like,
Hmm.
hey, I thought we were aligned, and now I'm getting information that's not that's signaling the opposite, right? Or
Yeah.
signaling from green to yellow, right?
Yeah.
And so and it was like way more male friends than I had been accustomed to. And a couple hours later, again, I come across a post of like, hey, you're paying for all these dates and dinners, but somebody else is smashing for free, right?
Hmm.
And again, that's not
Sorry,
like
I can't take that.
no, it's like I hate that I'm even suffering from it, because it's so
No,
stupid.
I'm not laughing at you.
Uh,
I have so many things like that that are, I could just this, but this is not my interview. So like, sorry.
no, please, if we need
I'm
to,
laughing at the
talk about
post.
the
The
trauma,
the post is so funny though. Like just
it is.
it's ridiculous. Yeah. But anyway, sorry. Go
It's I
ahead.
mean, and this is
Yeah.
the thing about modern yell culture right now, is
Yeah.
that why the fuck are we caring about those things? That to
Yeah.
me is so
Hmm.
annoying. But
I agree.
the thing that I disliked even first, even before the post, is that why did I have to go digging?
Mm.
Like,
Mhm.
I know that
What
she was
triggered you
we
to
were
do? What triggered you to do that?
yeah, I don't know, like it's the trust thing, and I've been cheated on before, and so I
Mm,
think that like there are sparks of that came up because you
mhm.
always kind of want to make sure that the person that you want is the person that also wants you and only you. Um, and I think that really it was just like a weak moment of mine, and
Yeah,
that's why I hate having weak moments. Probably why weak moments exist because they showcase, hey, you haven't healed from this as much as you think that you have.
yeah,
Um, and the only thing that I'm glad about is that I didn't, again, as you were saying, I didn't immediately text her like, "Hey, what's going on here?" You know, like that would have been, she would not be talking to me right now.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of where it
But
came
it,
from.
but I do. I want to say that, like, I'm glad you shared more about like what happened after that, because I think that's like some people might say that's like stalking, but it's not like you like hacked into anybody's account, right? It's all public information, right? So you saw this post, and
Yeah,
that's cracking me
yeah,
up.
yeah.
And
I'm glad it
um,
make you laugh.
yeah, sorry. That's authentic. You know, this is what
It's
we do here.
authentic.
Yeah,
Just
it's
laugh
my
in my
authentic
misery.
reaction to it.
I'm literally telling you I'm so insecure about this, and you're just laughing at me. That's crazy.
You don't love me anymore, do you? Damn it! Oh
I know, I
man, you
know.
ruined it.
This is a
I just
yellow flag over here.
it's all gone now. It's all gone now.
It's all gone.
But
This
but
really
yeah,
was a transformational journey.
yeah, that's right. This is a big, fast roller coaster whiplash. But you you know you saw that thing, and it had nothing to do with her or you, because it's
Mhm,
just a public post. And but it triggered something inside you.
mhm,
And what I love about this moment, this very moment here where this happened, is that like you trusted yourself, because you said, I'm feeling something inside me, so I'm not going to ignore that.
mhm,
I'm going to trust that there's something there. Now it might be that there's unresolved trauma, or it might be that there's something I need to investigate, but I'm going to go and do some investigation, not anything unethical, right? Just I'm going to look and click on that profile, etc. And now you have some more information
mhm.
to protect yourself, right? Which is what these triggers are supposed to do. Like, this is a healthy thing where you have a trauma that occurs in the past, you were betrayed, something happens in the future that reminds you of that. And so you're like, oh, I need to protect myself. I'm not going to let things happen underneath my nose. So I'm just going to learn more about this person I'm seeing, just learn more about who she's associating with. And what does that tell me?
Yeah, I want to agree with you, but the way that I would have liked the Thad and Samara thing to have happened or gone is, the problem with social media, like there are two ways that this could have gone. One is she just talks a lot about the guys, which she doesn't. But let's say she was telling me hypothetically, she was telling me multiple stories and there were different guys in each one. In my mind, I'm like, hey, that's a yellow flag. She has many male friends and these seem to be um more than platonic things. And so let me have a conversation with her and
Yeah,
ask her face to face or on a call or whatever, what's going on here? Like obviously not what's going on here, but like, hey, this is what you were saying and this is how I'm feeling. And I I, I understand that you and I are not exclusive right now, but like are you like what is this type of thing, right? As we were talking about. But what happened and what I dislike is that I came to a conclusion and I made an assumption by myself that triggered my own insecurity. And
yeah,
that was the downward spiral. That was the negative feedback loop. That was the catastrophizing. And I hate that. And I've done it so many times
yeah.
and I don't know how to get out of that other than deleting Instagram, which I can't because I've done that before. And now I've realized I can't because when I did that last time, I lost so many connections that I can never get back.
Well, I mean,
Um,
you can delete the Instagram, but there's going to be something else that's going to trigger you, and you're
right.
going to catastrophize, right? So I don't want to turn this into a therapy session. We can go into, and I totally would love to like dig into, but actually it is a good question about that. And maybe it's a good segue because I want to talk about I talk about connection some more. I think the catastrophizing probably wouldn't happen if you didn't care so much about this connection you have with her.
Yep,
And
that makes sense.
and so this is like the segue into the other part that I wanted to talk about, because like my journey towards authenticity started with connection. I started out because I've been a loner my whole life. I've always been, I shouldn't say always, but most of my life I was very alone, very few friends. Even when I was in a relationship, I felt so alone because my relationships
Yeah.
weren't functioning.
Yeah.
It's not the same anymore. It's different now. Like, you know, that you and I have a connection, and we were introduced to another one of my connections. Um, but like what got me here was I realized that in order for me to connect with other people, I needed to first connect with myself.
Yeah.
And the only way I can connect with myself is to have a better relationship with myself. Um, so could you tell me a little bit more about the relationship that you have with Ayush?
I usually try to treat him with as much respect as I treat other people. I love the RuPaul's Drag Race
Yes.
quote. Yep. Um,
What you go
how the
say it for
hell?
the people who don't
Yeah.
watch.
How the hell are you gonna love somebody else if you don't love yourself?
Yeah.
Um,
It's the
I
other way.
love that,
If
you
you
know.
don't love yourself, how the hell are you going to love somebody else?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. I'm not an avid watcher. Just one of my
Yeah.
favorite people.
Yep.
His name is Rico. I unfortunately don't talk to him anymore, but on my first job, Starbucks, he wrote that
Mm,
quote on the last day he left,
mm,
and I always remember it because he got like us 2 boxes of Timbits, and he wrote it on a sticky note, and he was just like the sweetest guy. Um, yeah, I'll always remember that. But that's where the quote came from.
mm,
Um, yeah, I try to treat myself with as much respect as I treat other people. I'm a really big fan of intuition. So if I know that something is not working out for me, then I will listen to that. Like I just like picked up the habit of smoking cigarettes, and I've never enjoyed it. Like literally never enjoyed it. But I was just like doing it, and my body kept telling me, "Hey, probably shouldn't do this. You know, like you don't like it, so why are you doing it?"
yeah,
And I quit as fast as I started. Just like it was like a 3 month thing.
yep,
It was just like a random thing. People were like, "Hey, why did you start smoking?" I was like, "I don't know." And then people are like, "Hey, do you still smoke?" And I was like, "No."
nope, yeah,
Just listening to intuition. Um, I listen to my mind a lot, and I always try to engage in metacognition and even metacognition. I pay a lot of attention to health and well-being and spirituality. Um, and so my relationship with myself is kind of like taking care of a plant or taking care of a pet. You know, like
mm, mm,
there's an interesting thing of people who are really depressed won't take their own medication, but they'll make sure that their pets are fed and have
mm,
their medication. And so, not that I'm depressed or anywhere close. I've never suffered from depression, and I don't want anybody to think that I have, because that would just kind of be an icky thing to say if I don't fully believe it. But I've been sad a lot, like a lot of my life. Um, but acknowledging that you are sad and acknowledging that like there are things in your life that make you sad and can be changed. I think that's very important. And so I just started paying attention to those. That's kind of where the building the intuition came from, which is, hey, there are certain things that you're engaging with and doing right now that maybe aren't the healthiest, or maybe are contributing to a worse mental state. And so you should stop doing that and see what happens. And the biggest thing about the relationship with myself is just trusting in myself. Not thinking that I'm going to screw it all up. Not thinking that I'm going to ruin everything by just being there. You know, like I used to be so goddamn socially anxious and insecure that I could look somebody in the eyes and within 3 seconds say they don't like me, right? For no reason, just like an assumption. And that doesn't happen anymore because I love myself. And again, I get my internal needs met internally. I'm not looking for external validation. I don't care for it. I don't need it. So my relationship with myself is very dynamic and fluid and changes very quickly. But there's a foundation there that I'm glad to say I built for myself, and I'll always be there for myself. I think that's very important to say and understand and believe.
That's honestly both surprising and not surprising. Um, because it's not surprising because of what I know about you. Generally people that, uh, the way you said it was spot on. Is like you treat yourself with the same respect you would give other people.
Yeah.
Most people, they, or I should say we, because I do this a lot. Um, we tend to be harder on ourselves than we do to a complete stranger. And we don't treat ourselves with the level of compassion and respect that we might a complete stranger. Um, and when somebody does treat themselves with that love and respect and compassion, which is what I think RuPaul means when she says, if you can't love yourself, how are you going to love somebody else? I think a lot of times when people hear that, they just think, I need to love myself. So I'm going to stand in front of a mirror and I'm going to say, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. And just going to repeat that over
Yeah.
and over till they believe it. But that, that's not how it works in relationships. And it doesn't work with a relationship with yourself. It doesn't work with somebody else. Right. Um,
It's good.
yeah. So what I found is that people that do, uh, have that love for themselves, and I know you don't watch RuPaul, but I'm sure somebody that's going to watch this does. It's like RuPaul Charles is a very authentic person. You know, I mean, they founded this drag race. Drag making drag popular, right? You got to be very
Mhm.
authentic and willing to say, I don't care what society says,
Yeah.
to be a 6'5" man and put on a dress and makeup and all of that, right? Um, and then make a franchise out of it. Um, and so people who love
Gangster.
themselves, yeah, totally, right? Yeah, it's so fucking
Yeah.
badass,
Yeah.
and I have so much respect for it. And so like, so yeah, so people who do that, they're fucking badass, and you are badass, and that's why I'm like, I'm not surprised. But then I am surprised because I'm like, where the hell did you get this from? Because most people, we don't, we have to work for it. I didn't get it until the last year or two from the algorithm from YouTube, and so I'm curious, like, yeah, where did it come from?
Again, full circle. Just going with AI for Gen Z and pulling on that thread. I was very hard on myself. Um, Again, when I wanted to write the book, I wanted to write the best book on AI that had ever been written, especially by a Gen Z. And there's a lot of how would you say? There's a lot of killing yourself and that, and just destroying yourself, and like being a Navy SEAL coach on yourself, kind of like a really sadistic David Goggins. But this is masochistic because it's on myself. Um, but I didn't derive sexual pleasure from it at all. As far as I know. Um, but but I don't know. It was just following it and knowing that it was necessary for me to follow it, and that I'll figure it out. And that's just how it happened. It was not a slow. Sorry, no, it was very slow, but it wasn't like a step by step process. It was three steps forward, one step back, four steps forward, one jump back. Just struggling with it and learning so many things and learning about myself and learning about writing and reading and communication and artificial intelligence and Gen Z, and then learning about myself through that, and then going through a really bad breakup and needing to go to therapy and learning about so many things in therapy that helped me with the writing and helped me focus on getting off. I was a avid cannabis user, getting off cannabis and learning what that was like, and learning about withdrawals and doing so much studies and so much studying in neuroscience and psychology, and then applying that to the book. And so it wasn't as simple in retrospect as I'm making it seem, but that's kind of just where it came from. And again, that's why I tell people, when you follow your passion, at least for me, when I followed my passion, this is how my life changed. Like that, it's just I'm a living embodiment of, I followed my passion, and I'm not only not the same person, but I feel like I'm such a um, more attuned and aligned person with Mother Gaia and the Earth, and for my fellow civilization, than ever before. So that's where it came from, I think.
So there's like this journey that you went on, um, and along that journey, because I think you can read a book that tells you how to. There's actually a book called Self Compassion. It's just
It's
all about how to have self compassion and um, I mean, you could read a book, you could watch a video, but you have to be able to put it into practice. It's going back to that challenge piece, right? You have to run it against challenges to like learn. Um, so it sounds like you had a lot of challenges that tested your self compassion. And but where did yeah, was there like a book? Was there a video? Was there a, a mentor? Like where did that seed of like, hey, you know what? Because I'm assuming that you said at the beginning that you were very hard on yourself. And so somewhere along the line you realized I need to stop doing this. Like what brought that realization about?
I'm so hard on myself. I'm not. Me. There's a big difference, and
Hmm.
bel being able to believe in yourself means that, hey, I'm going to enforce really strict deadlines, and I'm going to make sure that I'm not comfortable.
Hmm.
One of the
Yep.
things about making a certain amount of money is that you become comfortable in where you are, and you get into a habit and a routine, and you start slacking on things because you're comfortable. And so I'm not, and I don't like that. So one of the reasons why I don't care about the money or anything is because I force myself to have less money and not acquire things. Um, I give my money away. I forcibly give my money away to my parents. I make sure that the money is not making me comfortable, and I'm not uh, doing things that go against my personal values. But there's an aspect of that where before I would be incredibly rude and vicious with myself, where I'd be calling myself names and say
Hmm.
that you're a piece of shit and you'll never figure this out and you're
Yeah.
worthless. And that has no place for your soul. You shouldn't be treating yourself like that. Um, if you ever saw your pet biting itself, you would stop it, right? Because why would this beautiful creature hurt itself? And so people have to think of themselves as that beautiful creature and stop hurting themselves in that way. Self harm doesn't have to just be physical. Um, so sorry, the question was, how did that come about? Um, was there a book, a podcast? Well, I was lucky enough to embark on this quest during COVID, and so we weren't talking to many people anyway, or we weren't seeing that many people anyway. But I subscribed to the belief that if you surround yourself by five people that have the things that you want, or at least have the mindset that you want to adopt, that you're able to get there much faster. And so, in my ears and on my screen, I just replayed and played and replayed the five people that I wanted to be like. At the time, it was like Cristiano Ronaldo and David Goggins and Jocko Willink and a bunch of other people. The just getting better, self discipline and stuff. I had my favorite videos that I would just continuously watch um, to kind of refine my mind and get myself to a certain place where I felt like I had way more belief and trust and confidence in myself. And the books, I mean, I'm an avid reader, so I'm reading and downloading things from many different directions. So there were things in Stoicism that I found. How to Think Like a Roman Emperor is a great book. There are things in psychology and neuroscience. Live Wired by David Eagleman is a great book. Um, Genetic Modification, Hacking Darwin by Jamie Metzl is a great book. And all of these different pieces of literature helped shape the person I am today because I got some type of like I treat each book as like they're chipping away at something. They're refining the diamond, and
Mm.
the diamond is only perfectly refined when I'm dead, so it's never going to be perfectly refined. But uh, these are all pieces of work and pieces of art that helped me in some way be closer to the person I am. So it was not really self-help books. I personally don't believe in self-help books because I think the only person that can help yourself is you. And that is different for everybody. But I maintained my belief or my passion in myself by just following that. And if I saw a book that I really was interested in, I didn't know why I was interested in, but I just loved the name Hacking Darwin. And I started reading that book, and I used that book template to write my first book. And now I know enough about genetic modification because that book inspired me to read a bunch of other books. And I'm now writing a book on genetic modification. And, I had read um, Ted Lieu or Ken Liu and Ted Chiang's both of their short story collections. And so now I'm writing a genetic modification book of short stories to explain to my generation what genetic modification is in a way that they find accessible and people would find beautiful because they're short stories and they're artful, and they'll explain what genetic modification is in ways that people can understand and apply to their own lives. And so that's again following the thread. So again, I'm going off script, but there was no one piece of work that shaped me. I'm still being shaped.
Yeah, the reason I asked the question is that I want to extract um, something tangible for anybody listening who's like wants to go in a similar path. And I think by the way, before I tell you what I think that is, I realize there's something else that's like authentic about you or what is who you are, which is you meet people where they are. Like writing the books about genetic modification in a way that's accessible to people in your generation that may not be experts in that domain, is an example of doing that. And I see it as a thread. And it's a superpower. And I think it's really awesome because I think we have this problem where there's a lot of knowledge and expertise that's locked up in these ivory towers of the people that have studied them, and they don't work to make them accessible beyond that ivory tower. And then it limits our ability as a civilization to extract value from that knowledge. But when you make it accessible, like you're doing, then we all kind of rise. So I just want to call that out. I think that's really awesome. But I think the thing that I think that you did that got you here was that you said you surrounded yourself, not necessarily like actual people, but you found 5 people that that resonated with your values, that resonated with who you wanted to be, and maybe on some level you felt was you just waiting to come out.
Yeah,
And
that's powerful.
yeah, and you surrounded yourself with them, and you got nuggets from them and wisdom and even maybe some subconscious things, and then you realized, oh man, I'm being mean to myself when I need to be tough on myself,
And
but not mean. Like you need to parent yourself, right? You need to set boundaries and all that, but you're not going to be mean and cruel because you would never be that way to your own child. Yeah,
oh, it shouldn't
yeah,
be.
yeah.
I mean, what I guess I'll just wrap it up before we go with saying you. It's okay with not knowing who you are. I struggled with that for a long time.
Hmm.
I still struggle with that. I have an idea of who I am, but that ideas change and thoughts change. Um, when you're young, and again, this is perpetrated by social media, but you always feel like you're lagging behind. You always feel like you're 10 steps ahead behind everybody else. And right now you feel like the world doesn't work for you, so you're never going to catch up. And the most powerful thing that I ever did, honestly, and this is probably the theme of this conversation, is just trust myself that I'll figure it out. It's a very simple thing, but when you trust in yourself, rather than trusting that the world will figure it out for you, when you trust in yourself, it kind of becomes like those video games where it has a beginning, middle, and end, like The Last of Us. Like there's story, and when you're done the story, the game ends. Versus like something like Minecraft, where it's endless. It turns from like the Last of Us type of game to a Minecraft type of game. Because The Last of Us, you're forced to deal with the story. You're forced to deal with the story of how it comes. Whereas with Minecraft, you are the person that creates the story. You have that free will. And I continuously tell young people, or just people in general, because the Benjamin Franklin quote, some people die at 25 but don't get buried until 75. So it's not just pertinent to the generation that I'm in, but it's kind of a human thing. Um, Trust in yourself that you will figure it out, because you do have the power to figure it out.
Mm.
Um, Figuring out doesn't have to come in this, divine intervention. Somebody's going to give you the gospel one day. It can be a slow, steady process, and that's okay. We're all in this. We're all in a different race. We're all on a different journey. It's not a race at all.
Mm.
And just because other people seem to have it figured out doesn't mean that you never will. It doesn't mean that you're lagging behind. Um, just trust in yourself.
Yeah, I love that. You have to trust in yourself. And it's a never ending journey. Nobody ever figures it out. I actually believe, my belief is that we don't we don't necessarily find who we are by trying to figure out, is that me? Is that me? Is that me? We do it by figuring out what's not us and shedding it and letting it go. And that process of letting go is a never ending process. And that's what this podcast is about. And I'm glad that you closed us out there, because it's a great place to end. Um, Thank you for sharing like so much of um, just so much that's unique about your journey. And you were vulnerable, and I appreciate that. You were honest and authentic about it, and gave me a new perspective about how to look at things and what the challenges are with this generation in terms of authenticity and all of the challenges that social media and AI bring with that. So I want to ask, can I ask
Well,
one last question?
please.
Yeah. So if you could travel 10 years into the future, what's one thing that you would remind yourself um, of, so that you don't forget, like, that you don't forget this is what you're doing?
It's interesting because I record videos probably once a week, just kind of documenting what my life
Hmm.
is. So um, I just do it in photo booth on my Mac. Um, and it just showcases, like, it's nice to have a little collection after a couple of months of, hey, I can go back 3 months in time and just look at how I was, look at how I acted, how much eye contact did I make, what was my hairstyle like, type of thing. We forget those moments. What was going on in my life? Um, what was the stupid thing I was worried about? Like the one awkward social interaction I had that I needed to document, right?
Yep.
Um,
That,
Depending
that
like 10 years
Instagram
in the
post, the
yeah,
Instagram post.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna remind myself of that. I'm gonna be insecure 10 years in the future now as well. Um, so I go 10 years in the future and I remind myself of just my values. Like, just, hey, this is who you were, and this is who, you know, I want you to be. Because I still think of myself, like, I always say, like, tongue in cheek, but like, I'm so jealous of me in a year because he has so much more
Mhm.
figured out. But I'm so proud of him. And the reason I work so hard right now is to set him up. The reason I want to learn French so quickly and write all these books so quickly and so beautifully right now is because I want to set him up. Because if I work hard now, then his life is easier and he can work so much harder on other things that can move this bloody civilization forward. So it kind of is just like, um not a spectrum, but it's like a moving target. Not a moving target, but just like, it's a very fluid thing. Like,
Mhm.
I'm working so hard because I have to make sure that my past self was right in being so jealous and inspired of my current self. And I have to work so hard now because I want to make sure that my future self is set up in a way that helps him out. If I'm making bad decisions now, then I'm fucking over myself in the future. And that means I'm screwing over, eventually, projects that could lead to the betterment of civilization. And that's a no-go for me. So I think that's what I would say. in 10 years. And also, I would ask him, you want me to give you the lottery numbers? I got you.
I love it. I love it. That was the right answer, actually.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah.
I know the test when I hear one.
Yeah. I love it. So where can people find you?
Oh, I'm on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. People just search Gen Z Diplomat podcast. They can find it there. If people want to just email genzdiplomat at gmail.com, I can send them the book, or I can just chat with them. Um, but yeah, I really don't want anything from your listeners other than like their time and patience. I appreciate you, Alex. Like I don't have these conversations with many people, especially not recorded. And I appreciate the person that you are and the authentic person that you were even the first time we were on call. And I'm very excited for your future in podcasting, because if this is you at the start, then I can't imagine the guests and the type of connections and conversations you'll have when you're 100 or 500 episodes down. I'm just so excited, and I can't wait to be with you on that journey, and observe you on that journey and support you on that journey. So yeah, thank you so much for this episode.
Yeah, thank you. Likewise. And we'll hopefully we'll do this again soon. We have
100%.
to. I think we have to. All right.
Absolutely.
Take care. See ya.
Thanks.